Perhaps no other feeling is as painful as being cheated on by someone you love. When I hear people talk about cheating, they almost universally talk about emotional or sexual infidelity. I used to wonder how someone's girl would be so mean. The fact that the love and trust you willingly gave someone ended up getting thrown down the drain can be utterly disappointing. It may feel like an emotional roller coaster ride for days, weeks, months, or even a few years, as it takes time to get beyond an unfaithful mate. But it's pertinent to think decisions through, enact a plan, and begin the healing process by taking a revenge and learn her a lesson for the lifetime. Let's backtrack and build this shit from the foundations. My heartbreaking story started in 2016. We were in a relationship for 2 years. Naturally, we were in love. Things are pretty much perfect. All of our friends said we were the perfect couple, and we both truly felt. So I thought I had finally met my soulmate, someone who just gets me. She felt the same, but cracks started to appear quite early. She used to be pretty bold and very attention-seeker girl, having a good sense of humor. She had a hair and a stunningly beautiful face, and her eyes were just, wow. I used to be the boring man who lacked flirty chat. She was such a vile lady. I liked being around her, and with time we fell in love again and again. We used to go on dates, talk for countless hours, and phone. She was the whole universe to me, and I was very possessive for her. My girl was the center of my world, but my life is moving in a different direction due to excessive workload in some personality complexes. My replies were really inviolable and kind of irritating for her, because she used to reply me after long hours. Being overly available can be a turn-off for some people, as I was checking in frequently and always have time for my girl. It made her feel like the chase is over, but that time I was so in love with her personality. So I decided to finally make a relationship officially by having engagement. It seems as if life is almost too kind to me. But this race romance did not continue for long. We were in a happy relationship. I took her to a store where I bought a bunch of candy for her. And after leaving the store, I pointed to really old and small theater and asked if you would like to check it out. We went to movie before dinner, which was fun because we could talk about the movie at dinner, funnily enough. We ended up seeing The Lives of Other, an intense foreign film, which was basically the opposite of a romantic comedy, but it definitely got our hearts pounding. Then we both went to dinner at a pretty restaurant in my neighborhood and got a glass of brandy as a nightcap. I don't think I'd ever have brandy before, and it was delicious and made us all warm and giggly after she walked me home, and we kissed on the street and people walking by whistled. It was a simple but lovely date. Meanwhile, she insisted me to join at my office. I refused and asked her to do some online work related to content writing because she was fond of posting rhymes in Patreon, Facebook, and Instagram. But she denied and got angry. So she finally joined, and we got mutual friends as well. We were having the group of 4. We used to hang out in cafes, McDonald's, and most frequently at clubs. One day, I finally went to Washington for a business meeting for about 6 months. That was the time where Kay started. She started cheating on me and started ignoring me and keeping distance. Every time I said, "I love you," she replied, "Lol." She started snoring every time when I talked to her. I was having my birthday on 25th August. I was highly excited for her wishes, but highly disappointed from her in the past. She has always made a really big deal about my birthday, even talking about it for days before to pump me up. None of that. This year in the past, she would also call me at midnight to be the first one to wish me a happy birthday. I never got that call last night despite being in contact with her less than 5 minutes before. She had been at a party and had some wine. So I just assumed she was a little drunk and forgot. No big deal. I was waiting for her long string of birthday morning text messages. But again, disappointed. It feels like a lack of effort on a partner's part. When they fail to get you a card of special occasion or even a single birthday, Wish I ask myself why this bothered me so much. Is it about a token gesture or is it part of a deeper issue in our relationship? I believe that cute long paragraph, cute written notes, chocolates, roses or card gift is a great way of showing that you care. Someone communication is critical to a healthy relationship. One night I called her about 50 times. She was appearing online but still did not respond to me. It felt as if that night wouldn't pass. I had a throbbing headache and couldn't stop crying. I don't remember when I slept off. I was quite nervous and in a state of high fucking headache. I remember the text I sent her, I keep myself busy with the things I do. But every time I pause, I still think of you. I think about you constantly, whether it's my mind or my heart, please reply me. I'm anxiously waiting for your response. She replied, I'll sure talk to you later. I'm out of be right at the moment. I begin to weep and realize the fact that being away from the ones you love can feel excruciatingly lonely. Not being around those who brighten our lives and make us feel special is never easy in life. Very circumstances prevent us from being in the presence of some of our favorite people and we find ourselves searching for. I just kept the business meeting regardless of losing my job and reached there within 6 months. Although I will have to stay there for 8 months and coming back when I cuddled my fiancée tightly, her attitude was totally perplexing. I regularly promoted her to please be open and honest with me so we can work things out. But I was exhausting her. I created a romantic scene to make her gain full for me and said, I remember the day I first met you, I remember the first word you said to me. I remember the conversation we once had about caramel cupcakes. I even remember the first time you said I love you. Have you remembered? She replied, she never had time for me. I always had higher priority. Things to focus on. Her resentment of me grew and she was openly hostile with me at this point. Then she scheduled a trip to go on a woman empowerment event, females only. And I knew in my heart what was happening. She had found a cover story that she knew I wouldn't argue with. I got enough clues that she was having some relationship with one of my colleagues. But I was not sure. One day I found out him when she had accidentally left her phone with me to book a cab. I read her text messages with the same colleague I was thinking about and seeing her inappropriate pictures she had shared with him. All of my fears were confirmed, even worse than I imagined. She was researching how marriages turn out with your colleague. She talked to him and his family background. She further researched how to catfish someone and the list of things went on. She Googled this man nearly every day. The evidence was undeniable. She absolutely loves this man and was talking him. When I confronted her, she bluntly denied it. And when I met her next, the messages were wiped out. I've been through mental trauma for a few months. Just don't understand why this is happening. I'm 4 years younger than her, in great shape, and have always been there for her. Why do people do this? I decided to move out of relationship as things were getting toxic, but all in vain because I wanted to give her lifetime lesson. The thought of your spouse being unfaithful is one that most of us dread. This really happened to me. I found out from a friend that she has booked room in hotel. So I head over there, which is 45 minutes from my house. I drive up, park and get out of my vehicle and see a guy walking from one balcony to the next into another hotel room. 10 seconds later, my fiancé at the same balcony door that the guy left. I wanted to yell and cry loudly, but I handled myself. I realized Meninga is not bearing your feelings. I need to let them loose. My feelings are legitimate. Putting on a good face won't make them disappear. They will only suffer later in the form of poison, filled bitterness. Feel deep, identify those feelings and articulate them. I went to my home, locked the door and began to scream and cry. I wiped out my tears, made myself strong, took a cold shower, drank a strong coffee and took my laptop out. And then from YouTube learned how to create fake email account and succeed. I finally sent that colleague to whom she was having relationship an anonymous message with a dummy email and successful in draining their relationship. I started following them whenever they hanged out one day after my fiancée was having a fine dinner and enjoying the late-night movie with her boyfriend. Both were driving back home. She realized in the deep silence that something is not right. The next moment her boyfriend asked her to pull over because he wanted to discuss something. She moved the car to the sideline and asked the reason. His boyfriend said, "My feelings have changed and it's not working between us." She went silent and the tear dropped on her cheeks. I was really delighted that time because enemy was burning for revenge. I decided to marry her for revenge as she was having no better option. She already got a breakup. So she agreed. I gave her a fairy tale wedding, but it didn't lead to fairy tale marriage for her. It took her less than 3 months to realize that my infinite love is now changed for her, her lifestyle preferences and expectations from me. But most of all, values were highly disappointed on the wedding night, the first night of her marriage. Instead of care, kind words and companionship, I fully ignored her. She could not imagine it was coming from her lover as it forced herself and me. She felt the overpowering smell of whiskey coming from my mouth. Her dream strand in the screams that shot through the abyss of her soul. Shutting the night silence. She began hating the mention of honeymoon, a word she said once loved. It was synonymous with torture. Is this how it is all supposed to be? She wondered when she was so high. I fully ignored her. Even she tried to seduce me. But I started watching Netflix that night and got some snacks with me. She was totally amazed. I started casually compliment other ladies and lightly touch them on the arm or shoulder. These things made her mentally depressed. I believe mentally hurt is much more hearted as physically injured vanish with time. But mental injuries get deeper with passive time. I used to behave her like my servant. She sometimes cried and asked me, "Why are you doing such to me?" I never replied her, ignoring her again and again, frustrated her. I spiced up my looks and mostly engaged in Netflix and late-night parties, leave her lawn at my home and lock the door. She was fond of poetry and used to write my poems on Facebook. I forbade her from doing it. I even started dictating her what she should wear at night. I threw cold water on her and said to her, "Be thankful it's water and not piss." I got a Christmas holiday. I was sleeping in my fluffy sofa. She came and said, "You've changed my life in so many ways. The Christmas season is my favorite time of the year, but you make it worse for me. Made this beautiful smile of yours never fade. Merry Christmas." I decided to order some pizza slices and caramel cupcakes for her. Just in courtesy of Christmas. She made eye contact with me and said, "You still remember my taste." I fully ignored her. One day when I was fully drunk, I threw her on the floor and dragged her back here to the door. I looked into her eyes and shivering while addressing apology for being the unfair husband. "But you were the worst and disloyal lady who made a gentleman a cannibal. I did not have enough courage to hurt you anymore. I just wanted you to taste tremendous ignorance and hate." She laid frozen and started crying loudly. Put hands around my neck and whispered, "Please forgive me. I miss the older you in ways that not even words understand. And if I miss you any harder, my heart might come looking for you. Please come back. I want the older you, the one who used to deal with me like a fairy." She yelled and cried, "You're a monster." Now I started yelling with pitched voice. "Now you will never mind because you fell for the other guy." When I hear people talk about cheating, they almost universally talk about emotional or sexual infidelity. Infidelity can feel emotionally overwhelming. I really felt the pain I experienced after breach of trust is indeed far more intense than that caused by a misunderstanding or miscommunication. Cheating is not angry words said in the heat of an argument. I declared her cheating is a choice. She remained quiet and now in a high mental trauma. I spend my most of the time in business meeting outside in order to have lack of interaction with her. Indeed, history repeats itself. I remember how I used to beg for attention and missed her all the time. Now she's dying from my attention. When I hear people talk about cheating, they almost universally talk about emotional or sexual infidelity. I got it both from her. Sometimes a question arises in my mind: is cheating a choice or a mistake? Then my experience replies, it's not a mistake. It's a choice. These cheaters commit actions without thinking of their significant other. She chose to go with someone because she was bored and simply looking for something to occupy herself. What would you suggest to me? Should I had disloyalty or give her a chance?